It's been very encouraging to be here, and particularly to meet with the chief mediator and his mediation team. All of them have been involved in the peace processes in South Sudan. In fact, the chief mediator himself led the comprehensive peace agreement discussions. And, what we got from the discussion, which was really quite frank and engaging, is their commitment to ensuring that any agreement that is signed is actually implemented, and that, in fact, the dividends from that agreement will benefit the ordinary people of South Sudan. I think that's their major concern, that it should end the conflict. It should bring all the parties who have been outside of the process into the process, and that any gaps, in fact, that anyone might argue exist will be addressed. The chief mediator, I think, raised a number of concerns. I think in the main, his concern is that you can sign any agreement, but the big question is implementation, and also a commitment by the parties who sign it to ensuring that, in fact, it is actually implemented. And, they have huge experience in dealing with South Sudan and all of the political parties. And they are concerned that, in fact, it just isn't a piece of paper, but is something that actually translates into building a peaceful society, ending the conflict, and ensuring that citizens in South Sudan enjoy their rights as citizens. And that means access to education, to social services, and also to being able to enjoy a life in which conflict is not what you have to wake up with and deal with every day. And so the security issues for them were also of major concern. I think my message to the government and to all the groups who are here is that I think this is quite a critical moment for South Sudan. Already because of conflicts in the rest of the world, people are not paying so much attention to South Sudan. And in fact, I would say that there's awareness of the fact that the conflict has not ended, particularly at a subnational level. And if we want to retain the interest of the world in ensuring that South Sudan is able to walk this pathway to building national unity, and reconciliation, and of course to also building rule of law institutions, then the parties who participate in the process must be committed to the value system that underlies both the CPA, the revitalized agreement, and of course the Tumaini process. And that is to make peace and to ensure that there's a management of plurality and diversity, and that South Sudanese citizens can return home understanding that they will be able to carry on with their lives, and that the quality of life they enjoy will be improved so that they remain in South Sudan and don't sit outside of the country. The question, of course, is that the revitalized peace agreement has a fairly comprehensive understanding of how transitional justice, a comprehensive process, can contribute to both peace building and nation building. And what we were here because of our mandate, which is really around Chapter 5, I think the reason we are here is to really ensure that, in fact, Chapter 5 institutions and Chapter 6 are really preserved and not tampered with, and that Tumaini, in fact, reinforces the importance of being able to not just establish these institutions, but also to ensure that they work.
Which institutions? Can you mention some of the institutions?
The Commission on Truth, Healing and Reconciliation, the Commission, the Reparations and Compensation Authority, and then, of course, fundamental to any peace process is what we would call a social contract, which is embodied really by a permanent constitution. And that process is critical, really, before you can have any, end to a peace process. And then, of course, beyond that, the question of a commitment to ensuring that institution building becomes a key feature of the South Sudanese structure, both in terms of governance and accountability. And that's where, you have an excellent report that was prepared by two judges, one from Uganda and Kenya, around the question of the judicial system in South Sudan. And they give one quite a macro view of what is wrong and also what needs to happen. And I would want to see that, in fact, any process that goes forward takes into account that it's really important to provide a roadmap for that question of judicial reform as well.